Well, hello, Waxahachie. This is Heidi Hood, your marketing manager at the Waxahachie Chamber of Commerce. And we are coming to you today with a really a deep topic that obviously there's a lot going on right now and a lot of social unrest and a lot of things as just as our world is stepping out of a pandemic, there's a lot of unrest as well accompanying that. And so today we're going to talk about how to handle things, how to handle feelings, and what sort of productive things that we can actually do to help ourselves and help each other during this time. And so I'm very proud and happy to hand this off to Noelle so that she can toss it over to one of our experts that we have in the field today, local to Ellis County, local to our community with Discovery Point Retreat. Noelle, would you take it over?
Yes, thank you, Heidi. Thank you for having us here. I want to welcome Greg Powers from Discovery Point Retreat. He is the clinical director there. And I want to welcome all of you to our mental health and recovery series. Yes, so today we are going to talk about everything that's happening in terms of how are we going to manage our feelings? How are we going to interact with our world as we're coming out of COVID and moving into now, as Heidi said, all of this social unrest, dealing with a lot of extreme feelings on either side. Greg, thank you for being here.
Happy to be here, Noelle. Thank you.
So I thought perhaps what we should start with is just talking about acknowledging what's going on. I think a lot of times we just want to bulldoze right through our lives and not just have the ability to stop and say, you know what? I think I need to acknowledge there's some just stuff that is not normal happening in the world. How am I going to deal with this? Can you talk us through some of that?
Sure. Right now everybody is kind of going through that dazed and confused feeling right now, right? I mean, we've kind of gone through the pandemic piece. We've done the social isolating and we've been stuck at home. And now we're being bombarded in the news with the tragedy that's going on with the gentleman in I think Wisconsin and around the country, right? And so as we keep hearing more and more about these things going on, it starts to affect our day-to-day life. And sometimes we recognize that and sometimes we don't, right? So sometimes it's a matter of, I'm not sleeping really well. Maybe it's, I've got kind of a short temper all of a sudden, and that's not something that I'm used to. All of those things are symptoms of anxiety and what all is going on, and just being bombarded with all of this news that we're having to try and figure out how to digest.
Yes, absolutely. And I wanted to ask you about really taking the time in our lives to change our expectations right now. Because I think what happens to us is we're just expecting to somehow muddle through all of this and not really take the time to check in. And I think actually that's a skill that a lot of us, we don't take the time in our lives to even do that, to check in with ourselves. So can you help us, give us some skills in terms of what does that boots to the ground look like to actually check in with yourself? Take us step by step through what that would look like.
Honestly, Noelle, it's as simple as just stopping a minute and kind of asking ourselves, how are we doing? Am I doing okay with everything that's going on? We're faced with concerns of illness. We're faced with concerns about our job, our finances. We're concerned about what's going on with our friends and our neighbors, or even ourselves. Are we concerned that something may happen to us beyond the illness if we just go outside? Is something going to happen? So taking that time to just stop and say, how am I doing? And being honest with ourselves. We get to that point sometimes when our friends or our coworkers go, so how are you doing today? How's everything? And we just have that standard answer of, I'm fine, right? But are we really fine? Are we really being honest with ourselves? if the answer is no, because, I'm not sleeping well at night, I'm waking up 3 or 4 times at night, I can't go back to sleep, or I can't go to sleep at all, or I'm eating a whole lot, or I'm not eating. These are all things that we need to be honest with ourselves. I'm okay. Things are not going well. And I need to, whether I need to seek professional help or I need to talk about the fact, hey, I'm
Hey, Greg.
with all of this. I need to talk about it.
Noel,
Yes.
Greg, I think you froze up real quick. Do you mind repeating the very last bit that you that you said for our listeners? And you're frozen currently on the screen, so hopefully that'll unfreeze as well.
Okay. Hopefully then you can hear me. And a lot of it is really just being honest with ourselves and saying, I really do need to talk about this. I need to reach out to my friends, my family, or if it seems to be really a big deal, then maybe I need to reach out to a professional and say, hey, I'm not doing well with everything that's going on and I need help.
So it sounds like what you're saying is that we need to really specifically identify those things, those specific items that are contributing to our anxiety, to our depression, to all of the things in our lives that aren't so positive right now. So what do you think in terms of social media, in terms of the news, even those kinds of habits, and how they affect our lives and affect, our daily emotions right now?
I think he's reconnecting. Let's hang on. You may need to repeat the question.
See, we're reconnecting to the world and each other. So this is
That's
just
it.
like
I'm reaching out.
Did you hear the question? I'm just going to go ahead and ask it again. Are you frozen? Are you there?
Yeah.
This is like
I'm
live.
here. You were frozen for a second.
Okay. So we were just talking about identifying.
This is our new normal.
Right? I mean, what are we going to do? This is it. Identifying those things specifically that are contributing. For example, I was talking about social media and news and that constant influx of panic, trauma, things that are making us anxious. That can't be good for us, even if the stuff that we're seeing is accurate and we're truly, sincerely upset about it. There's that sincere aspect of things, but then there's also the panic that comes with it. Maybe even like a feeling of powerlessness. Like there's all of this traumatic stuff happening. What am I going to do about it? I'm just sitting here feeling powerless and panicked. So how do we address that in terms of our social media and news practices, shall we say?
Sure. It's great to be informed, right? We live in a world that we have the 24-hour news cycle. We can find out what's going on around the world instantly. And having that information is a great tool, but it can also be really detrimental to us. You mentioned the word trauma. And when I hear about all the stuff that's going on in the news, and it seems like we're just bombarded with negative things that are going on, we're experiencing something called secondary trauma. Maybe we're not going through that situation ourselves, but because we are bringing that into our daily lives with just an onslaught of information, we're being traumatized, and we're starting to experience pieces of trauma because of that. And so when we're focused on having the news on all day, and I'm not one of those to be against that. I think, like I said, it's important to be informed. But when we're just being bombarded day in, day out, and it starts to impact us to the point that, we're starting to have those feelings. We're starting to feel anxious. We're starting to be depressed when, oh my gosh, I'm going to listen to the news again and how horrible this is. I'm really starting to feel depressed. Those are times that we need to say, hey, maybe we need to take a step back. And, it's good to worry and be concerned about things, But when it's 24/7, that's when it becomes a problem. So we start noticing those symptoms and having those reactions. So one of the things that I talk to my clients about, and I even do myself, is to give myself a period of time during the day that I'm going to watch the news, or I'm going to sit and really think about what's going on around me and possibly even to me, to the point that, okay, I'm going to give myself 1 hour and I'm going to schedule it. And that sounds kind of silly, but if I know that between 5 and 6 p.m., I'm going to be able to sit here, I'm going to get all this information, I'm going to be able to process it, I'm going to think about it, worry about it, maybe yes or no, but that's the time that I'm going to focus on that, and then I'm going to let it go. I'm going to turn the TV off, I'm not going to worry about what's happening, what I can control. And if those thoughts come back into my head, I can tell myself, you know what, I'm just right now, I've got that scheduled for 5 o'clock tomorrow, and that's when I'm going to look at that.
Heidi, did you want to address the technical issues, or should we continue with the conversation?
I'm really not sure. I think that it's benefiting everyone to continue on because the conversation is going so well. But Greg,
even if you can't hear the conversation, it's great. We're having such a good conversation.
Yeah, no, exactly, Noelle. It's like I was wondering, Greg, if you could just repeat the last thing, but if I pulled up my hand, it means that we cannot hear you real quick. So we're going to test it out. Okay. Can you say the very last thing you said, and then I'll hold up my hand if we can't hear you.
What I said was that when those thoughts about worry come into my head, if it's something that's impacting my day at that moment, I'm going to stop and say, you know what, I'm not going to worry about that right now. I have that scheduled for 5 o'clock tomorrow, and I'm going to pay attention to that tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Between 5 and 6, I can think about it, worry about it, do something about it, not do something about it, but have that time that it's okay to really focus on that. And the 23 other hours, I'm not going to look at that. I'm not going to worry about what's on the news. I'm not going to worry about what's happening in all of this craziness that's going on around us.
That is easier said than done. We all know it, but I think that being aware and starting to practice that would be incredibly powerful. One of the things that I noticed about a lot of the comments that you're making, a lot of the suggestions have to do with self-talk, have to do with that constant news feed that we have in ourselves, how we're talking to ourselves minute by minute in terms of, I feel awful. I don't think I can handle this. This anxiety is too much. So isn't there that aspect as well? Even if we shut the news feed off externally, how do we manage the internal news feed that we ourselves produce?
Right. So, it is easier said than done, right? But it's about setting that routine for ourselves and being accountable to ourselves. And this is not even just for ourselves, but helping our family members, helping our loved ones as well, right? So they're going through some of this same stuff. So as we start looking at that self-talk, we go, you know what? This is really bad. And so if you find yourself in that conversation, right, of, oh my gosh, look at everything that's going on. I can't believe what's happening. I can't believe, I'm worried about going to the doctor to just do my regular checkup and how horrible that's going to be. So we start that self-talk, that negative self-talk in our head and worrying in ourselves. And so when we recognize that and go, okay, wait a minute, what am I doing? It's going back to that first part, right? It's about when do we check in with ourselves and say, what's happening with me today? What is, what's going on in my head? What am I saying? Am I being positive? Am I not being positive? Am I helping my family members, my loved ones? Am I contributing to this problem? When the answer to those is yes, I'm contributing to this, I'm just as bad as, the people on Fox News or CNN or whatever. And it's like, I'm part of this issue, right? So we do that self-check. We start talking about, okay, what is it that I can start doing that's positive? What am I doing for myself today that's positive? And giving yourself that permission even. I know we talked about, sure, it's easy to say, I'm just going to do an hour. But what a gift that is to yourself to say, you know what? I can do 23 hours in a day that's not related to this. I can take care of myself. I can take care of my loved ones. Because how many times do we get to that point that we're sitting there watching the news or we're on social media and, hours go by? That's time that I could have spent with my kids or my spouse or my friends even at this moment. How much easier, and yes, technical difficulties and stuff, but how much easier is it now to just get online, do a Zoom with your friends, to Zoom with your family? Maybe we're at that point of summer vacations and people were planning to maybe go visit family and we can't do that now, right? But you can still get online, you can still Zoom, and you can still talk to those family members and still be connected to them. And that's that part of being kind to yourself and giving yourself permission to have quote unquote normal. It's a different normal, but it's being able to go back to that. Okay, I want to talk to my friends. I want to talk about, the weather or whatever, and I don't have to talk about a pandemic or how other people are being treated. That's all important, but it's not something we have to do to ourselves and to our friends and to our family on an ongoing basis.
You are so right. And it all comes back to being present. I caught myself last night. I'm on my phone just horrified by the things going on. And there are my children. I could have put my phone down and gone swimming with them, played with them, talked with them. But no, I chose to move into, this negative spiral where I have no control. I should have readjusted what I was doing. And I'm sure we're all doing that now. One of the things that you said was, engaging with friends and creating really safe boundaries, because that's a whole other sack of potatoes right there, starting to engage with others, but they're in a bad space too. So making really clear boundaries about what is healthy conversation, what's going to keep you moving in the right direction, because believe me, it is easy to start getting into these conversations where you're sucked right back into something you were trying to get yourself out of. So how do you recognize those kinds of interactive boundaries as well?
So, and that's tough, right? So we're talking to our friends and they start talking about all this stuff and it's easy, just like when we've got the news on, to get sucked back into that, right? So that's one of those times when we just, like you said, it's setting that boundary and going, you know what, that's a horrible situation, or, I'm really concerned about that too. But you know what, I'm not going there because I've been there and I'm trying to get out of that piece. And so being honest with your friends, being honest with your family and saying, I just can't do that right now. If you want to talk about that, we can maybe schedule a time to do that. But I'm here to talk about, the kids swimming, or I'm here to talk about the fact that, oh my gosh, we're actually getting to go to the park soccer and be again. And those are the things that we have to kind of redirect those and say, I'm giving myself permission to say, I'm not here. And I'm giving you permission to not have to go there as well.
Okay,
Greg, the last thing you said, I could hear bits and pieces of it, and it was really good. Can you repeat it one more time?
It was really good.
Yeah, it's about giving yourself permission, but also giving your friends and family permission to not have to go there and not talk about those things, but to find other things that we can talk about, that we can connect with and have fun with and enjoy each other's company, and just take maybe a break from the bombardment of all this news.
So it really comes back to being present, being aware, being there in the moment with the people you love, not always spinning out into the negativity, the anxiety that is happening around us. I want to give you the floor for just a final word of encouragement, but I did want to say to all of our audience, if you are struggling with depression, anxiety, substance use, please don't hesitate to call Discovery Point Retreat. We are here for you, to help you, to guide you. Even if we can't help you, we will help find where you need to be to get the help that you need. Please call 855-916-3289. And Greg, can you give us something to hold on to in terms of what we're doing at least this next week, in terms of keeping ourselves mentally healthy? What's your final word there?
I'm going to leave you with two things. One, be kind to yourself and look at what you have that's going on. Be grateful. You know, sometimes we tend to get stuck in that negativity, but we can look around and say, you know, it's a gorgeous day today. The weather is nice. We're finally getting some summer weather, and that's a good thing, and we're happy about those things. Be grateful and be kind to yourself.
Greg, thank you so much for talking with us, even though some of the words we couldn't hear. Hopefully we got the message across. We are wanting to be an encouragement to the community. Thank you, Heidi, so much for hosting this. Thank you to the Chamber, to Sandy.
Yes, thank you guys so much. And Greg, we did hear everything that you said once you repeated yourself a few times. So we're very grateful for that. You guys, if you're tuning in tonight, be sure to give a call to that mental health hotline that is available in this post. We definitely are here to support our community, specifically business owners and their employees, as everyone is getting back to business. Businesses are reopening, and a lot of people have changed. A lot of people have new things that they're dealing with, and new mindsets that they're working through, and everyone's in a different place right now. And so just being kind to one another and being like Greg said, very clear on how you're taking care of yourself as well. We want to encourage everyone to do that. So the Chamber is here for you. We're grateful for our members at Discovery Point Retreat, and we hope you all have a wonderful Tuesday night. Bye guys, take care.
Bye.